At age 34, Russell Westbrook's best days of basketball are for sure behind him, but going into his 16th NBA season, I think Brody easily has enough in his game to still be a high-level point guard. And in this video, I want to do a deep dive on Westbrook's film to see how he's finding ways to still be effective on the court, despite being out of his physical prime. So obviously at age 34, Russell has lost a lot of his next level explosiveness, not being able to quickly generate the same force off the ground and explode at the rim in the same way he did back in his OKC days.
The drive all the way in, left hand, no!
And that's obviously been a big problem for Westbrook the past few years. His ridiculous athleticism has always been a get out of jail free card, and Russell today has had to develop some different ways to finish around the basket. And last year, he did find a lot of success primarily leaning on his strength. For a vast majority of backcourt players, Westbrook is a serious matchup problem.
The record for those teams is 3-164.
Brody absolutely loves to play physical and seek out contact on drives. Notice how Torrey Craig on this play is giving Russ a good amount of space, so Westbrook in response is going to go between and flow up to both put Craig on his heels and get himself into the paint. And Russ from here simply puts his right shoulder into Craig's chest, which both moves him back and gives Russell a window to finish with his inside hand. Now because Westbrook isn't looked at as a major threat from the outside, the defense calmly gives him a pretty big cushion with the ball, in hopes of baiting Russ into a pull-up. But Brody is great at attacking into that space to work his man into the paint, then use his physicality to finish. Again, notice how much space Durant is giving Westbrook with the ball, and watch how Russ just simply eats up that space and comes to an aggressive 2-foot stop and elevates up into a finish. Now Russ can also use his physicality to establish good low post position and turn into these short 8-foot jumpers, which I think are actually good shots for him. And there's many times where he can get good low post position with little to no effort. Notice on this play how Booker gives Russ absolutely no contact until he's already in the paint, and from here Russ is able to create a good amount of separation with his drop pivot, and he rises up for an easy jumper. And while Westbrook has lost some of his athleticism, he still has a really good first step. Watch him here face up with KD and rip over his top hand to get to the front of the rim for the lay. Now here we have him isolating against Booker, and you'll see Russ get to this cross jab, where he exchanges the ball from his right to left hand first, then plants his outside foot second.
Helped him get back in the game. Westbrook, what a move! Delivers a blow.
Now again, like we went over, Russell has a really hard time generating his force and explosiveness in tight spaces. But if Brody has the space to pick up a head of steam, he still shows flashes of that nuclear athleticism.
Westbrook drives and backs it down.
If Westbrook can get momentum with the ball, he can still create a ton of problems for the defense. You'll see Russ here pushing in semi-transition, then he's going to work off this screen in the middle of the floor. But notice how Norman Powell in the paint sets this back screen on Aiden who's playing in drop. And just the slightest miscommunication by Phoenix allows Russ to explode downhill for the and one. Now I also think Westbrook's pace and skill with the ball is extremely underrated. Brody may not have super shifty or flashy handles, but the moves he gets to are simple and effective. You'll see Russ again here pushing the pace, and notice how upright and casual he is with the ball, but then he's just going to drop his level and punch his left foot back to get to a simple push cross. You'll see Russell get to a similar move on this play, where he's again playing upright and casual, but then he drops his level and drives off his outside foot, to both quickly change his pace and attacking angle. So right now, probably the most important element to Westbrook's game is going to be his facilitating. Brody today is still an elite passer, and because the defense still respects Westbrook as a downhill scoring threat, he gets plenty of playmaking windows with the ball. And this is especially the case in transition. The defense knows if Westbrook gets a head of steam on the break, that he's most likely going to be exploding to the rim. And therefore, Russ calmly attracts a lot of attention on the break, which opens up easy shots for his teammates.
Gordon fires away, hits another three.
Like on this play, notice how both Austin Reeves and LeBron slide across the paint to provide extra help. But this opens up the easy skip pass to the corner, which leads to a catch and shoot three. Now again on this play, as soon as Russell begins to push the ball, notice how the Suns defense gets slightly distracted by Westbrook for just a split second, and that allows Kawhi to leak out and catch a lob at the rim. And now of course, Russell's also a really good playmaker in the half court, and he can do that both out of the post and also by creating momentum on the perimeter, and use that to collapse the defense and set up his open teammates. Now going into next season, I do see Westbrook playing off the ball more than we're accustomed to seeing, and last year we did see some flashes of Russell creating some high quality offense off the ball. So Westbrook has never been a major screener or cutter, but he does have a good feel of spacing, being able to move to open spots and create attacking angles off the catch. You'll see Gordon on this play drive it towards the baseline, and watch how Westbrook fills in from behind him and creates a closeout to attack. Now Russell off the ball may not be a knockdown shooter, but he is really good at both attacking into space and against closeouts, so he isn't a guy that you can just ignore off the ball. You'll see Booker on this play lunge too deep in gap, and he gives Russ a wide open lane to attack into. And notice before Westbrook gets the ball, how he skips towards his right to give himself a better driving angle on the catch. Now on this play, watch Jared Vanderbilt get caught gambling for a steal, and that immediately causes LA's defense to shift towards the ball and opens up the backside lob. So going into this season, the Clippers obviously don't want Westbrook to become an offensive liability, and there's two main things that may give Russell problems coming into this season, and that's his shot selection and turnovers. Now for the 26 games that Brody played for the Clippers last year, he shot over 35% from 3. And I honestly think if Russell mostly takes shots that are in rhythm and off the catch, there's no reason why he can't be a guy that hovers around 35% from behind the line. If Westbrook flows into open shots with no hesitation, I think he's at least an average outside shooter. But he does get himself into trouble when he slightly hesitates and second guesses himself before his release. Like on this play, you'll see the ball get swung to Russ, and notice how he just slightly freezes before he lifts into his shot. And that slight hesitation takes away all of his rhythm and momentum into his jumper. Now compare that play to this one here, where Westbrook steps into his shot with no hesitation, allowing his feet to give him momentum so he can flow into a rhythm jumper. But regardless of the type of shots that Westbrook takes, he's still not an elite outside shooter, and there are certain looks that Brody just shouldn't be taking, like these pull-up threes early in the shot clock. Russell is just simply not a good enough shooter to be ripping off three-point bombs early in the possession. Now even if teams go under his screens or give him space, he should use that space to build up momentum and put pressure on the rim like we previously saw. Now I think the same thing applies for Westbrook's mid-range game. And I'm not saying that every mid-range jumper that Russ takes is bad, but these tough contested long twos are just simply not great shots. And Russell last year, as well as for a majority of his career, has always shot around 42 to 45% in the mid-range, which for 2-point field goals is not an efficient number. And these are looks that the defense wants Westbrook to take. Notice here how much ground Booker is giving up to Russ, and from here Devin is pretty much begging Russell to settle. Now for Westbrook, these shots are especially bad early in the shot clock because the end result is a 45% 2-point look that puts no pressure on the defense.
Westbrook takes on Booker, missed it.
Now going into this season, I would love to see Russell primarily save these looks for later in the shot clock, and in order for that to happen, I think Westbrook's offensive discipline and awareness needs to improve. So the next thing we have to go over is Westbrook's turnovers. And I do think this part of his game gets a little bit overblown because Russell's obviously an aggressive attacking point guard. So through that, it's pretty much inevitable that he's going to pick up a few reckless turnovers through his style of play. But I would like to see Russ cut back on these unforced turnovers. For example, one thing he commonly does is get caught in the air and mixed up between shooting or passing, which either confuses his teammate or messes up his passing angle. Then you have careless plays like this, where Russell clearly telegraphs the entry pass down low, and it leads to an easy steal for the weak side help. Now again, with Westbrook's style of play, he's pretty much guaranteed to commit some turnovers, but it is important that they're at least aggressive turnovers, instead of careless ones. Now to sum things up, Westbrook's days of averaging triple-doubles are pretty much over, but going into this season, I still think Russ is going to show the basketball world that he still has enough in his game to be a high-caliber point guard. And with Kawhi and Paul George calmly being hurt, Russell's play for the Clippers this year is going to be vital. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kid should break down next. The kid's here.